Resilience, that's a word that's used in EU GDPR Article 32 as part of security of processing. And it talks about confidentiality, integrity, availability, and resilience in processing of personal data. Now, what does this resilience mean? Is it only about technological or security resilience in terms of systems and processes, or is it also about governance? Now, that's an important topic. While we discuss that, there's another important topic about ESG, that is environment, social, and governance. Of course, I call it environment, sustainability, and governance. So, ESG. And we're going to talk about these two topics, resilience and ESG, with none other than Marc Tielemans. Marc Tielemans is a professional with more than 30 years of experience, and he's the founder of a company called RealCGR. Let's go and talk to him.
Hello, and welcome to the Fit for Privacy podcast with Punit Bhatia. This is the podcast for those who care about their privacy. Here, your host, Punit Bhatia, has conversations with industry leaders about their perspectives, ideas, and opinions relating to privacy, data protection, and related matters. Be aware that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are not legal advice. Let us get started.
Here we are with Marc Tielemans. Welcome, Marc, to Fit for Privacy podcast.
Well, hello, Punit, and thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Nice to have you. And let me start with a simple question. You are in the GDPR or privacy space. And when you think of the GDPR, what one word comes to your mind? Let's ice break.
Well, GDPR, for me, honestly, it's not about the technical aspect. It's about always remember it's about a fundamental right. Okay, the right for privacy for the humans, which we call the data subjects in the GDPR. Let's not forget that. And then comes the technical part we all aim to do as good as possible and so compliant as possible. Yeah, that is what comes to my mind. Yeah.
That's very right. It's a fundamental right. And one of the words that they use in GDPR is resilience. It's a new word, it's a different word because we are used to many other words, rights, breaches, and privacy and protection, and so on. And then there was this technical and organizational measures, which we all understand, but the word is resilience.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have your opinion on what is this word resilience meaning, and how can organizations build resilience into their privacy program or privacy setup, if I may call it like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Punit, to my opinion, to my very honest opinion, the word resilience will be one of the most important governance words. It is already now in a sense, but it will become more and more visible in the future because resilience, there's a lot in there. It's about the fact that an organization have a solidity and a preparedness, a readiness to change, be them slow or be them very sudden interruption, like we handle in business continuity management, for example. So this said, resilient companies are stronger companies. They make the difference, and that is seen by many stakeholders, like governments, like investors, etc. So it's very important. It's about when you see it really macroeconomic, it's about protecting the economy and the essential players in an economy. So it's very important. But when we come to I will now just focus on an aspect as coming back to your question about data protection and the privacy part in that. Well, they are really interconnected, resilience and data protection, because of what, if you look, for example, if you just look to the GDPR or even other world standards like CCPA, in fact, you see that if you cause unavailability of data or loss of personal data, you can have situations of data breach or compliance breach. And I don't invent that. It's written in several articles, like Article 32 of the GDPR. It says that when we think of data breach, we must think further than the cyber attacks and the technical things that can happen with your data. It also includes loss of data and unavailability of data that comes from another type of risks, namely the physical risks that can happen to your company. And that includes everything, be it something of a natural disaster, something with a fire, something with a power outage, telecom outage, whatever. It causes this data protection situation, and in fact you cause harm to the people, to the data subjects. And this in fact says that you should take it in full consideration in your governance programs, both in resilience, business continuity, and also in data protection. And this is the right way to do. In fact, if we talk about business processes, both are important attributes. What is the data protection and what is the resilience? And you build the risk management and the risk response into your business process. That's a good way to go.
That's very well said, because since this word resilience comes in the Article 32 on security of processing, and it comes right after confidentiality, integrity, availability, and resilience of processing systems and services, and the ability to restore your the availability and access to personal data, most people tend to think of it as a technical aspects, technical means. However, the technical means need to be complemented with, or rather enabled by, your governance, your risk management, your compliance management, say a breach management, all those processes. And that's where the resilience comes in. So the resilience is not in technical system, it's also in the organizational aspect. So very well said.
I absolutely agree on that, Penit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
this is
do
why.
you have a
Sorry.
suggestion? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so in the practical aspect of that, if you have a disruption which is handled by people most of the time in resilience or business continuity management, like if you have an outage or a natural event, whatever, the easiest thing to do is in your damage assessment, just assess if there is a data protection, consequence. So, and that is the link between the two management domains, because the people will handle the business continuity aspect, disaster recovery, and the data protection officer can deal with the data breach if there is any, and that is the right way to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
just adding.
And well, that's resilience. There's another trend which we see in organizations talking about ESG, the environment and sustainability and governance. Now, of course, for most people, these are two very separate topics, privacy and ESG. But some of us, and especially when I was talking to you a few days back,
Yeah.
you see a bit of a correlation or intersection. Can you help me and also our listeners on how do you see this intersection of privacy and ESG, and why is it important for organizations?
Yeah. My honest opinion here too is that the two subjects are fully embedded with each other, and it's maybe more than my own opinion, because if we look at the law texts that are on the table, you see it there. It's written there, to my opinion. But let's have a look at it. ESG, we all know it's environmental, social, and governance. Okay, what's in it? It's about, in fact, the fact that it's a company or an organization is more than a financial given. So it's not only about the shareholder anymore; it's about the stakeholder. So this said, it's more than financial. It operates. It has environmental, social aspect, and governance aspect to its stakeholders. So, and in that, the privacy is really an essential part. It's looked at. Why? Because it creates trust and reputation. There is nothing so important as reputation of an organization, okay, because it can harm the financial aspect. And one of the very, very visible things is that if a company is, in fact, has a problem or not handling well a data breach, that goes around very, very quickly, and that can give reputational problems. And this is seen by investors at the time of investing in a company, for example, or time of auditing a company. So they are intersected with each other. High level, that's what I think. When we look into the subjects, okay, ESG, we all know there will be a very severe, or I should say consecutive reporting on all that. But it also entails some risk, like environmental risk in the social area, ethical area, and governance risk. If you look into that, some risks can create disruption, and there you have the link. Because if you have a disruption, you have to handle this disruption. You have your crisis management, etc. Well, if you don't handle ESG proof, if I can say it like that, that also will surface. I take an example. If you just a simple example, if your company has a fire on one of its plants and it pollutes the environment enormously and it's not handling that aspect well, not handling the people aspect well, the people safety and so on, that in the past times, maybe that was just wiped under the carpet and no one talks about it. But that will not remain. That will be seen, discussed, audited, etc. So, in fact, ESG is about all this, and the same counts for data protection. If you have a huge disruption causing a huge data breach, you must handle that because it's intersect with the social aspect very much, the governance aspect very much. That's my opinion. So there is no ESG without talking about resilience, without talking about data protection. Of course, there is much more, like the carbon thing, etc. But those two subjects are certainly a driver, a lever on ESG.
Okay. So that's interesting. I usually call ESG as environments rather than social, as sustainability and governance. But I do know that ESG is also environment, social, and your what do you say, governance aspects.
Yeah.
But do you see or do you expect some regulation in that context upcoming in few years?
Well, if I may just hook on your last remark, the ESG, when you look, it's just for the sake of the audience and to tell that it's not new. It exists. If you look at the first roots of that, you can even go back to the years of the 70s, 80s, and then it came the aspect of social responsibility, non-regulated most of the times. But everyone knows a company showing a good social responsibility and being ethical, etc. It creates a good image. So, but now the ESG is, I won't say, certainly it's more or less the same. No, it's more severe, but let's call it, it's a more precise assessment of the social responsibility. And in that, it's a bit the same reasoning than we say if we talk GDPR, we only talk about cyber attacks. No, in fact, the ESG is much more than the environmental thing. Of course, the environmental thing is very important, but social, ethical, and governance are really as important as the environmental. And the governance aspect, that's what stakeholders like investors and governments will check on. So it's just that. And I jump to the second part of your question. Do I think it will continue to go? Yes, I think it has certainly started, but I really think we have now like a wave coming. So we all know there was the GDPR, like a wave that was already a big wave to the companies to be compliant, etc. but what's coming on the ESG is a tenfold of that. Let's be honest. It's a lot more, and it will go also to a lot more companies compliancy wise, because it will touch as from the medium enterprise levels as from 2025. We all know that instances like the European Union, etc., has developed plans like the objective 2030, 2050, where they want to reach zero carbon, etc. Very huge decisions. I admit that they want to create, in fact, another type of economy. Okay,
Yeah.
something an economy that is really ESG proof and taking care of the environment, etc. So that's a huge decision when you see still what needs to be done and what is happening in some parts of the world. There is much work to do, but this said, this wave is coming, and I think it will not come. It will not stop. Companies will have to be compliant with that, or at least start to report on that and start to adjust on that.
Yeah.
So that is I think honestly, Penny, that's here to stay, because if you see the drivers of that, I'm just having a look here. Increasing importance of ESG. It's about global, even privacy regulation. It's about global economy, how we stand in global economy, etc. So it's not just a play. It's something very serious, here to stay.
Yeah.
So you better
So
take that in consideration into the company's governance.
okay, and in this world wherein we were talking few years ago privacy, then of course ESG is not new and we've been talking about it, but it's getting more prominence because of the EU targets and sustainability targets. And then the world is also getting more digital, more AI, more chat GPT and everything. So how do you see organizations making privacy more efficient or effective? Because you cannot just say here is privacy and then I'm going to add ESG, then I'm going to add AI, then I'm going to add this, because it's not layers, it's all integrated, it's all interwoven, it's all fabric of the organization, if I may call it. Because if you are in for the societal reason and not for the pure commercial reason, which is the mostly the case in Europe, you would need to balance out the two dimensions, that is the society dimension and the commercial. Of course, if you're a profit organization, you focus on profit, but you need the societal aspect. And in the society comes, as you rightly said, ESG. In the society comes responsible AI. In the society comes respecting human rights. In the society comes taking care of the citizen. So how do you make it all efficient in your view?
Well, finally, it's governance people that will have to make and implement this efficiency into organization, but it's the top management that will be taking the commitment, and if it's more than a commitment, it's really a liability to have things done the right way. So my opinion in that is to avoid making it, something theoretical, but really embed the principles into the company processes, into the company culture even. So if I'm explaining, we can have a theoretical exercise on GDPR and making a processing register, doing the right risk analytics, and putting technical organization measures. Okay, that's one thing, but really embedding it into the company, into its processes, into the people's culture, that is, my opinion, will be a driver to efficiency. And there are other drivers, like trying to keep things relatively simple. Okay, because you can perform analysis until eternity, But finally, you have to show some compliance. So I would say, integrated and have a level of acceptable complexity, not pushing the complexity of the governance too far, but something that allows having an helicopter view of, are we doing the things well and right, and are we doing it well, etc.
Sure. And now, these topics apart, I would also like to understand and also share with our listeners and audience, where does real CGR, your company, fit into all this? Because you say you are a regulatory technology.
Yeah.
So, where do you fit in? What do you do? What's your vision? And how are you helping different organizations?
Yeah. CGR stands for Compliance, Governance, and Risk Management. That is what we do, and we have some technology on board. That technology, and I'm talking now for not only for my company but for a whole sector of regtechs. It's aimed to make things more efficient. Okay, if you look at some topics like let's have a look. Things that you can, like monitoring, reporting, preparing for an audit, performing risk assessments in the GDPR, like a data protection impact assessment. You want to do a privacy impact assessment. You want to monitor technical organizational measures and so on. These are things that with the RegTech are made much more efficient than in the manual mode. And there is some acceptance already on some items. Like if we talk about encryption, monitoring, automated auditing, or if you would say pushing or measures towards users, like automated password renewals, things like that, are simply not possible without technology. And the governance part will also move in that way, because given the fact that resilience, data protection, and the coming ESG will be massively, come with massive reporting obligations. You see that it comes also with fines, audits, and so on. It will be, in my opinion, something difficult if you want to do it fully manually. I mean, all respect for users of Excel sheets and etc. They can be and they will be correct. That's not a problem. But the efficiency aspect, like if you need direct reporting, if you change something, an information that is interconnected with many other things, like you change a measure, and but this measure is linked to several processings, you must know the impact of that. So if you do it manually, it takes more time than having the technology. But most important is in fact the value of it at the time of a breach. That can be a resilience breach. Suppose that something happens in the company of any kind, a technical, high-end technical thing, or a physical thing, or you have a data breach. And so the time that you take before starting a proper reaction, this time is shortened when you use technology, because some of the assessments and so come automatically or quite quicker than if you must start inquire what's happening. So you get results of a damage assessment, for example, first, and you can know, okay, I'm harmed in these and these business processes. You will know, okay, in these processes, I handle critical, or I handle personal data, I handle critical information, and you start alternatives mode in the DRP, in business continuity. I mean, you start your disaster recovery and you start your data breach handling. And this is, we all know, in GDPR, you have 72 hours before making something known to the authorities, for example. That's just an example. Well, 72 hours is not too long, in fact. So the more time you gain, the better. So it's an efficiency thing, to my opinion.
Sure.
So
And
that's
if I
it.
may ask you a
Yeah.
question around this, who is your primary stakeholder when it comes to real CGR? Is it compliance? Is it ESG? Is it who is or DPO maybe?
Um, it depends on the precise what the subject is we talk to clients,
Okay.
but most of the time, Punit, it are chief risk officers. But we have some exceptions. We have even internal audit people that wanted to yeah build in better governance in the company, and some the stakeholders can differ. But most of the time, if I can say technically, it will be people like we call in the second line of defense, people building the governance, and people that can be audited, people that have to report to boards. This is more or less the level. And in that, you find risk officers, you find business continuity managers. Um,
Yeah, it makes sense. I
yeah,
was also expecting second line of defense risk or
compliant,
compliance teams.
compliant.
That's where it usually starts, this kind of conversation.
Yeah, to my opinion too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it was, in my opinion, wonderful to have you. A very good conversation and very happy to learn also about real CGR in a bit more depth and know you more.
Well, that's the pleasure is mine, and again, thank you that I can be on your podcast, uh, and of course, your audience know uh, they can get in contact with us, with me, with you, of course, if there are next questions or in
Yeah.
more information is needed. So. Uh, And
Yeah.
as a final conclusion, we say, yes, we are a compliance, governance, and risk company, but we really draw attention on the ESG part. We are very aware of that. And that's my final message. Yeah.
Sure. And how can people get in touch with you?
Uh, that's the most easy way. Is not difficult to remember. Is just go to the website realcgr.com, and there you will have possibilities to get in contact. But it's just info@realcgr.com, and that comes in our mailbox, and we answer that. And there is also the LinkedIn, of course. Just find my profile on LinkedIn, send me a message. That's very easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Mark. It was wonderful to have you and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you very much, Puneet. The pleasure was mine.
Thanks for listening. If you liked the show, feel free to share it with a friend and write a review. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you did not like the show, don't bother and forget about it. Take care and stay safe. Fit4Privacy helps you to create a culture of privacy and manage risks by creating, defining, and implementing a privacy strategy that includes delivering scenario-based training for your staff. We also help those who are looking to get certified in CIPPE, CIPM, and CIPT through on-demand courses that help you prepare and practice for certification exam. Want to know more? Visit www.fit4privacy.com. That's www.fit4privacy.com. If you have questions or suggestions, drop an email at hello@fit4privacy.com. Until next time, goodbye.